Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Simeon Papailias, who is a real estate expert in the Toronto marketplace. Real estate and what's happening with the real estate markets has got to be something that people are talking about around the dinner table, around the coffee pot, around the water cooler on an almost daily basis. Just the other day, the headline was that the Bank of Canada hasn't seen the decline in housing prices that they were expecting yet, almost as if they're trying to get housing prices to go down. And governments have had lots of different policies in regards to trying to increase the supply. Simeon, you've been prolific in posting about a lot of the challenges. One of them was about assignments, and I wanted to talk about that. You say that 10 to 15% of your clients now want to assign or flip their properties. You also talked about this one Bloor billion dollar bankruptcy. We've also been talking about pre-construction condos and the challenge there, and then just the general real estate market. So, Simeon, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show again.
Pleasure to be here, Brian. Tons to unpack from what you just said. We can really kind of take this anywhere, but people, I mean, we help hundreds of families every single year make their moves and invest in real estate, buy their homes, their actual homes that they live in real estate. Real estate has really come to the limelight in the last 5 years, both because it appreciated and blew up so fast and so big, and now with the interest rates where they are, a lot of people are affected negatively by the Bank of Canada's move. So there's lots to unpack here this morning, my man.
So let's start with rates and prices. That's sort of the overall. What's happened to real estate prices in general in the Toronto marketplace, the suburban marketplace, and the sort of the cottage country marketplace? What I hear is that cottage country is down like 30% and Toronto's down about 10%. Is that right, or what's your sense?
I mean, statistics are statistics. So I don't know if it's 30% in cottage country, but it is significantly higher than the city. Now, what I want people to understand is twofold. As I said, we have a lot to unpack. Recreational properties went to a 60% appreciation over 2.5 years during the COVID years. For obvious reasons, people had disposable income, people were buying places for their families, people were escaping the city and thinking they could live there forever, creating these, whether I want to call them delusions or not, people were looking at alternative ways to live during an unprecedented time that didn't have, a guiding light. So people were making moves perhaps that they wouldn't otherwise make, but the cottage market itself will always be there. So whether it stabilizes at 15% below its peak a year ago, that's not a bad thing or anything of that. It's just finding its ground. There was an artificial demand due to the circumstances in that specific asset class because of COVID, because of what we were being told to do, meaning we're not going back to the office, we're going to be working from wherever we want, and stay away from major centers and all the different things. So as people are finding their balance once again, that market will find its footing, and it looks like it is at this point stabilizing, and interest rates are simply not helping. From a GTA standpoint, Toronto itself is the most protected, always will be, because it's where most need or want to live. Mississauga, Richmond Hill, Brampton, both Peel and York regions are obviously second in command, with prices like Mississauga is down less than 10% overall. York region, Richmond Hill, these are all the most desirable suburban communities in the country. This is, again, it's the second wave. The minute that you're done downtown, so let's say by 35 years old, there's not much more of Toronto you can take and be downtown if you're looking to whether it's raising a family or growing into anything, Toronto doesn't afford that. Toronto, the 416 proper for families is different. They're typically different demographics. And if we are looking at a regular family raising kids in Toronto, you're looking at an entry point of 1.5 to 2.5 million. So it's either the economics or the type of family that you're trying to raise. To raise a regular family like you would in Mississauga, in Toronto, you need an extra million in any case.
In Toronto, you need an extra million.
For sure. To buy the same home you'd buy in Mississauga, you're not getting the same value. For me to get a 3,000 square foot home in Toronto, I need $2.5 to $3 million. In Mississauga, I need 1.1 million or 900,000 or 1.4, whatever the case may be. So that dynamic is not changing.
Now I get an email probably every half a day from a broker that says new price, lower price. So is that just am I just reacting to marketing, or is that a real decline?
There is definitely a real decline right now. I'm not going to put it on any one email piece from a single listing or a single broker, but right now at these mortgage rates is where it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So all the people who were just waiting and waiting for interest rates to come down have now realized that this is not the case. These interest rates are going to come down. I will say that with absolute certainty, but they're not coming down right now. So this has caused all the people who had 1, 2, 3 investment properties, the people who have been waiting, sitting on the fence, do I sell? Do I tough it out, to finally move forward? Because at 7% interest rate, the people are renewing at 7.5% interest rate that people are getting their money at. They cannot take it any further, which is why we have an influx of inventory that pushed us into a balanced, and as a matter of fact, a buyer's market for the first time in my entire career in the GTA.
A buyer's market for the first time in your entire career, and yet still the prices are unaffordable.
And I've been at this since 2007. So I entered the market into a correction when the United States had turmoil, 2007, 2008, 2009. But that didn't last year. That was about a 6-month to 12-month bump. 2012, again, 2017, when Premier Wynne introduced the Ontario Fair Housing Plan. There was times of up and downs that always ended up upwards, but none of them lasted as long as this, because now we're going on to almost 2 years. Right now, this started January, February 2022, and it's going to be February 2024 in just a couple of months. We're going into a 2-year period with no relief. This is the longest test I have seen in the Canadian housing market.
For high interest rates.
For high interest rates. And of course, its effect. At this point, obviously, inflation is coming down because people have been left with nothing to spend. So they have forced the situation to wrangle inflation. That was the whole goal. They're getting the result they wanted, but it just comes at such a high price in people's suffering, economic suffering.
Simeon Papailias, real estate expert. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with him in just 2 minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about pre-construction condos, condominium pricing, supply, and more on interest rates. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. The real estate market is our topic tonight. My guest is Simeon Papailias. He's with Royal LePage Signature. Simeon, if people want to reach out to you, how best can they do that?
An email, of course, and all social platforms. You can find me with S Papailias, SPAPA. I'll come up from there.
You posted recently that 10 to 15% of your clients are currently assigning their condos, their pre-construction condos. And the word that I hear is that, lots of people that had several different investment properties can't make that final payment when the construction is complete and are therefore desperate to assign the property. Tell me a little bit about that situation, if you could.
My clients specifically aren't in that category. A lot of people are. Basically, what's happened is this: 3, 4, 5 years ago, depending on the project, people executed an agreement of purchase and sale. They made a decision to buy. We're in Mississauga, so let's talk about Square One. They wanted to buy one of the towers right beside there. Let's call it M4, the Rogers project, the big M City project. They walked into the sales office and they agreed to pay a 20% deposit over the course of the next 3, 4 years. For those who don't know how pre-construction works, they locked in a price. Let's call it an arbitrary number of $500,000 for their unit. What they were doing at the time, they were betting in the future of Mississauga that this condominium is going to be worth, let's call it 5% per year more. So in a 4-year period, they would get a 15 to 20% lift.
And they're only putting down 20%.
And only putting down 20% over the course of the time, not even on day one. So there's a reason why so many people invest in pre-construction. It's a very lucrative strategy, and it's almost like, if you understand the dynamics and fundamentals of any given market, I'm not going to say it's guaranteed. Nothing's ever guaranteed when you're investing, but it's a very good likelihood that you are going to gain. It's
as
a
long
very
as there's appreciation in the condo prices.
Of course, and that's given for the way you get appreciation is because people want to live somewhere. So if you do your due diligence and homework, investing, for example, in the Square One area is a very smart decision. This is something that I'll say today, right now. If somebody would want to buy a condo in Mississauga, I would say with absolute opinion, professional and personal, this is where you want to buy. Because this is where the infrastructure is, this is where the entertainment is and the lifestyle, and this is where people want to be, and they will continue to. So investing in this strategy, you laid out 20% over 4 years. 4 years ago, you were getting tested at 3%. Interest rates were about 3% before COVID, 3.5. And forget the fact that they went down, but when they got their actual pre-approval as part of the process to make sure that they can actually buy this thing, there's a process for that. They were tested at 3, which was the current rate, plus 2, given the Canadian stress test for mortgages. So Canada is a very conservative country, meaning they will put the consumer through a lot of exercises to make sure that they're not getting themselves hurt, to make sure that they can afford it. What happened during COVID, though, was interest rates plummeted in order to keep the economy going. That period of very, very inexpensive money. So people got a little overzealous and bought condominiums and bought housing and did renovations, thinking that the party won't stop. When the music stops, and we are now in the highest interest rate I've seen in as many years I've been in business, since 2007, because in 2000, when I bought my first home, I got a mortgage rate of 5.05 fixed, and I thought I robbed the bank. I thought I was like, wow, like this is amazing. But now we are at 7%.
And the stress test?
The stress test has taken us to 9, which is why buyers cannot buy. But just to finish off the pre-construction conversation, the buyer doesn't have a problem putting the last 5% down, that last 30, 35,000. The buyer has a problem putting that money down, having to now take care of closing costs of another almost 5% of the purchase price, between land transfer tax, double land transfer tax if you're in Toronto, HST if you're an investor, $24,000 that you get back if and when you get it rented. The point is they can't qualify anymore. It's not 3 or 4 or 5%. A $500,000 mortgage is almost $4,000 in payments, $4,000.
And so if you are this investor that has invested and you can't qualify for the mortgage, what happens? If you don't assign, you got to walk away from all that deposit?
I mean, that's the worst case scenario. That is not happening in any type of significant way. There's always been 1-2% of pre-construction purchases that are going to default, and that's just life circumstances regularly. People lose jobs, divorces, deaths, etc. But right now, we definitely have seen a number of people who simply can't close. Some developers are giving a portion of the money back under an empathy contract, because if they can find a buyer or whatever the case may be. Some are losing. I've seen at least 4 cases in the last 30, 60 days where people did walk away from their deposits.
So if you're able to buy an assignment, are you able to get the condo at a really attractive price?
I would say that is the absolute biggest opportunity in the marketplace right now, is that that helping somebody who's in absolute distress get out of their contract. You can probably get it for the same price as 5 years ago that they had, or even cheaper, where they mitigate half their deposits. So yes, there is a lot of people taking advantage of that pain point right now.
At the same time, I see incentives from some of the condominium developers that are trying to sell off that last 5 or 10% of their condos, where they're giving free lockers, free parking, mortgage guarantees, low interest rates. What's happening there?
I mean, again, we were in a market that's been white hot for so long, where I forgot what it's like to be competitive across developers. Developers have been dictating the terms of this market for so long. For me specifically, it's been a pleasure to see myself being able to do my job again, where I don't go to like before, Brian, and I'm being 100% real with you. The biggest advantage I had is the fact that I knew all the developers and I could actually get inventory. People would call me because Simeon is connected and he can actually get me a unit at that tower, because they could sell the tower 3 times in one day from the demand. Now I can walk in and say, hi, my client, who is over there, will only buy here if you do X, Y, and Z. And now they're actually saying, okay, all right. Well, maybe are we able to negotiate this, or can we bring that down? You know, now I can protect your interest by capping your development charges, by getting you cash back on the purchase, by getting you free parking or an upgraded EV station, by all the different metrics that before were never up for discussion. The charges is just kept piling. So it's absolutely amazing that the market has been able to enable us to once again put the development community at a perspective where they're willing to listen to the customer, to the consumer, and be able to negotiate advantageous terms for them. Yes.
What about new condos? You know, in Mississauga, we've got big condominium developments. You mentioned M City around on Square One. You've got big development Mississauga Road and Lakeshore, big development at Lakeview. In Toronto, you hear people, condominium developers that are putting things on hold. What's happening in Mississauga?
Yeah, so every single one that you just talked about, that's a very common misconception. So when people are driving down the Gardner or Lakeshore and say, they look at all the cranes, like, who's going to buy all these condos? It's those condos were sold 4 or 5 years ago when you're seeing the cranes. So don't be confused. The process in Canada to build a condominium dictates that the bank will not lend unless they've sold 75 to 80% of the condominium. So the demand is there. Specific to Mississauga, Brian, you mentioned Lakeview. Every single one that you mentioned, I'm intimately connected with, and I've sold, like from Huron, Ontario, right from Highway 10, in Eglinton, for example, where the McDonald's is. That's where RioCan has a plaza, and they're putting up a tower called Above. And as you go south, you have beautiful projects by Edenshaw Developments, right after Burnham Thorpe. At Square One, you have Rogers, you have Camross Belcorp, which are some of the biggest developers in the country, putting up magnificent projects. And there is 20 to 30 towers that are in the plan already. Our urban planning, if you go to City Hall, you can see what it will look like. Right from Square One to the 403. That's all going to be filled in. This is why we're doing the LRT across Huron-Ontario, because the density is there to get people to GO train stations, to get people downtown and wherever they need to go. All the way down south, again, you have at, for example, Port Credit GO train station right across the street. I actually have, I bought a unit there. I sold a couple dozen units. Again, that's an Edenshaw project, I believe, called Westport, and it's located directly on the GO. Mississauga is doing a lot of things right as far as the real estate development plan, and the residents of this city, again, the GTA is in a very good trajectory for prices to go up. Unfortunately, the affordable housing is not going to get any better. My prediction is that the minute rates come down even a bit, we're going straight back into an appreciating seller's market. And that's because none of the supply issues have been addressed.
Even with all those cranes and even with all that development, you don't think the supply issues have been addressed?
So we need 150 to 200,000 units a year delivered. We're getting 50 to 70 at best delivered. So all those cranes that you see and all those things, they simply do not amount to what is required. So the fundamentals themselves are still skewed. And with this economic hindrance for the last 2 years, that delayed projects, it's just going to further exasperate it. By the time they come back to market and all the things, we're in for at least a decade of upward trajectory and pressure on prices only because of what's happening. Just this right now, what we're seeing, this depressed market is only because buyers are paralyzed because of the rates. They cannot afford to make a move. And that's why rents, of course, have skyrocketed. Rents are up almost 50%.
You know, some people think that the last couple of years of incredibly low interest rates, particularly since the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, was unparalleled in history. And 5% interest rates were sort of the norm on average over the last 50 years. And so, do we just have to get used to current interest rates? Do we really think it's going to come back to the 2% that you were talking about at the top of the show?
So I never think they're going to come back to 2%. That is what pushed people into all this nonsense. Never do I think we're going to see. I don't think in my life I will ever see that number again. But then again, we're not at 5% either, Brian. Right now, we're at 7%. We're between 6, 8, and 9% for first mortgages. The bank's posted rate is 5%. That's not the actual money on the street cost. The money on the street is at 7%, 6.89, 7.29. I just got a mortgage for 6.89 on a condominium by Yorkdale Mall. So the actual reality is, I do believe we're going to get back to the 5s by end of next year. I do believe we might be into the 4s the year thereafter, 2026. But I think that's where we're going to be for a very long time to come.
And so we're going to have to get used to higher interest rates, not as high as today.
We have to go back to regular expectations of a stable market. Having 2% interest rates creates instability of the worst kind, optimism that's unrealistic. It's not normal to carry $1 million mortgage with $2,000-3,000 a month. That's not normal. And to whoever thought that was normal, that was not prudent. So it creates monsters, basically.
Creates monsters. We're chatting with Simeon Papailias, Royal LePage signature, about the real estate market in the Greater Toronto Area today. Everyone, we'll be back in 2 minutes. We're going to chat a little bit more about what he thinks is going to happen and how to profit out of this environment, or how to survive, which is potentially what a lot of people are faced. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Our topic tonight is the real estate market in the Greater Toronto Area. My guest is Simeon he's with Royal LePage Signature. He's a frequent commentator on media. He's posting on social media on a fairly regular basis, and I follow him because his comments are excellent, and it gives me a great sense of what's happening in the market. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing him twice before, and so it's a pleasure to have him back on the show. Simeon, I think a lot of people are really worried right now. They've got variable rate mortgages. They're worried about it. They were making money with variable rate mortgages in the past. They're thinking about going fixed, and then they hear you say that interest rates are coming down. So my gosh, should I stay variable for another year and hope that I can fix at a lower rate in the future? Or my God, I'm so worried I should go fixed right now. I can't make my mortgage payment, but the last thing I want to do is sell into a down market. What do you do if you're...
So I think you literally covered every anxiety that people are feeling in the marketplace right now, including myself. So none of us are above it or shielded in any real way. Canada is one of the only big economies on the globe that their banking system has like tops 5-year terms. There's very few people in this country that ever exploited the 10-year fixed, but 80% of people are in a 5-year term, or 3 or 5-year term. With that said, there is nobody that has a mortgage in this country that's not going to get affected over the last 2 years. So all 100% of mortgage holders are going to renew in this 5-year period. So if you're one of the lucky ones, like myself, by absolute fortune, December 2021 is when my mortgages were due, 2 of them, my primary residence and one of my income properties. And I got fixed rates offered to me. They're like, oh, variable is at 1.2, and you're fixed, you can get it at 1.9 or 2.1. And I said, I'll take the fix, please, thank you. So I fixed 2 mortgages 1 month before the hikes began. And it wasn't because I'm smarter than everyone. It was my luck. It came up, it was ridiculously low, and I said, obviously I'm going to do it. But my luck is going to run out December 2026. I
was at a conference in the United States, and this is a US statistic, not a Canadian one, but this past week. And they said there was $1 trillion of mortgage debt coming due in the next 12 months in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. The numbers are staggering. So, but let's make that into a bite size. Let's remember what Canada is made up of. Let's remember how many are actually affected. Out of all the houses that you see, all the houses, more than 50% do not have a mortgage at all. That's fact. Over 50% of Canadian homes are mortgage-free. Out of the other 50%, the mortgaged homes, over 50% of those are at 30% loan to value or less. For anybody wondering where I pull these numbers from, we're not making things up. Anybody can head over to Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, CMHC.ca, where our government holds all its actual statistics, how the government makes decisions. So 75% of the entire market is either mortgage-free or a mortgage at 30% loan to value, meaning if your house is worth $1 million, your mortgage is $300,000 or less. How that's possible, specifically in the last decade, is because homes that were bought for $500,000 within a 10-year period became 1.2s. And I think that's very easy for people to resonate with, because so many people became a lot more stable and a lot wealthier because of just buying a home. Would you agree, Brian?
Yep, no question.
So this is why Yes, it's easy to get caught up by the hype of the newspapers. Yes, it stings and it hurts if you're going through it. But you, the person suffering, is not the majority in this country. You, the person that has to endure this, and I'm going to speak to how we can endure this, because there are strategies that can help.
Tell us about them.
I will now. If you are going through housing, if you're house poor right now, if your home has sucked all of your earning power and you cannot cope with other things, you have to look at strategies either at selling if you absolutely have to, but you have the right to rent a room in your home. You have the right to add additional dwelling units to your home to create more value and to create some income, depending on what stage of the pain cycle, I suppose, you are in. If you are against the ropes where you can't make the next payment, you need to look at an overall a fundamental change in everything that's happening, more than likely leading to a sale, which is why we're seeing actual inventory in the market. Because before, nobody would ever sell holding onto their properties because they can't get requalified at those prices. But people are selling now because they can no longer take it. So if you are against the ropes and you have already budgeted, because we can give you budgeting strategies as part of our service, what we do. But like, I consult on budget and economy all the time. And the easiest way to do so is by absolutely cutting down drive time, eliminating fuel expenses, getting onto transit, creating meal plans. These are easy things that anybody can implement to save $500 to $1,000 a month on average, which is a significant amount of money. So depending on which part of the cycle that you are in, if you are looking at projecting 6 months down the road, you will be, not flush, or you're going to be short, or if you are already short, you have to implement strategies to either increase your income by creating value inside the home and renting it out, or very simply put, cutting expenses, which can be done typically instantly.
You were quoted in the Toronto Star a little while ago about saying cash flow is essentially gone because of elevated interest rates. And I guess you were talking about the ability to increase rents. If you're an investor and you own a condominium and mortgage rates have gone up and your interest mortgage payments have gone up, are you able to cover that with rental increases today?
I mean, to the folks who own properties with low mortgages, they're cash flowing like kings right now. Meaning the increases in rents, because of the increase, buyers are not able to buy, so they have to rent longer. So the rental pool is just massive right now and competitive. It's the exact same thing that we had in buying earlier. There's many people cash flowing like crazy right now, but the majority of people who closed in the last 3 years, 4 years on their condos that carry mortgages, they are in the red from $500 to $1,000 to $2,000 a month. It is not a pretty picture right now because of these interest rates, specifically downtown Toronto, where the mortgages are higher, right? They're bigger mortgages.
You made a comment on your Instagram feed about knowing the top dogs and having strong relationships is essential for success in the real estate industry. When you have a network of trusted partners, you can share opportunities and increase your success in understanding the market. I was told, and maybe you know this better than I was told that 80%, 70 to 80% of real estate brokers only make one sale a year. And so therefore, the vast majority of real estate brokers actually don't make a lot of money. It's just the top 20% or so that are the top dogs. Is that true?
It's unfortunately, it's very true. The real estate business is a very difficult business, contrary to what many people think. And what I will say, real estate today, specifically, the last, let's call it 10 years, it has become a very sophisticated enterprise. And unless you are looking at it's not open house Sue anymore. Take a look, have a cookie at the open house and buy a home. Financing is extremely complex. Mortgages are millions of dollars. renovations, all the taxation and all the different strategies deployed in the marketplace, real estate professionals have to be far more educated, and the work is very difficult and demanding, meaning I'm not talking about shoveling difficult. I'm talking about structuring is very difficult. And unless you are savvy and investing in your education consistently, it's simply very hard to succeed. My team, for example, we are the highest transacting investment-focused group in the country. We're typically number one, number two, number three of Canada's biggest organization, which is Royal LePage, 23,000 agents. And we're either number one, number two, or number three in how many transactions we do. That's 800 transactions a year. And there are agents who don't do one. So not everybody's the same. And for a consumer, they require to have confidence in their broker. And that's why there's an even bigger consolidation. People want to work with established, proven players that can get them the results that they see.
With every, house on MLS, why is it so important? Why is it so concentrated? Why are only 20% doing 80% of the deals?
Because the rest don't know how to structure them. So putting a house on the MLS is not going to sell a house, or it's not going to sell it for the outcome that you seek. Selling a home is a simple function, but did we sell it for top dollar? The consumer needs to know that they didn't leave money on the table. This is their asset. They can only sell it once. There is no going back. So if I were to walk into your house and say, can I sell your home? Of course I can sell your home. Everybody can sell your home. How much can they sell it for? What are the terms that it was sold for? That is the difference between brokers.
Okay, so I've got a nice house.
Yes.
My kids have all moved out because they've all become young adults and have moved elsewhere. So it's time to downsize. I've got a mortgage, but it's a reasonable mortgage as a percentage of the house value. Is now the time to sell, or should I just wait till the market turns?
Yeah, so that's a very common question. I'm glad you're hitting some great topics, Brian. Thank you. So, excuse me.
I should invite you over to take a look at it.
I personally am not a residential broker. My team is. I'm a commercial broker. Going back to your question, it's not a loaded question. It's a matter of the way we do business. So now you're getting you're asking me personally, and I'll give you what we do. We do what we've coined as a REAP, a real estate action plan. So what we do with our clients is we do an intake, a professional intake, where I take Mr. Brian Crombie, I meet your family, and I go down every single intimate detail of your financials and your goals. What is it we're looking to do? The kids are now gone. Are they in university? Are they married off? Where are they? What are your obligations in life? Do you have a child that needs support for the rest of his life? Do you have an aging parent that needs $4,000 a month in a nursing home? What are your circumstances? Where do we need to focus our attention? Do you need cash flow? Do you need growth? Are you 35 years old? You said that I'm an empty nester. Do I sell my home now? The answer is only if your plan includes making a move into real estate now. Because if we're going to sell in this market, we're also buying in this market. So you're not going to sell now and buy when the prices are up. So either you're going to wait for prices to go up, but you're also buying in that market. So people don't correlate the difference. If you're not buying a new place, I would say don't sell now, because in 6 months you are going to have a bump. It's not going to go astronomically up like it did before, but the market is on course for recovery right now. So if anybody does not have a gun to their head, this is not a time to sell right this second. My opinion. I am a broker. This goes against my income, but it's advice that I'm telling you. It's not hang on, prices are going up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the market should hit its bottom. Either we've hit it or we're about to in the next 30 days. We're going to see some further pain exasperate, and then we're going to see now the rates held. this week, we're going to start seeing some stability in consumer confidence. So if you do not have a rush, I would say hang tight for the spring market.
Hang tight for the spring market. Simeon Papailias, Royal LePage Signature, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to take a break for some messages, and I'm going to come back with some concluding comments in just 2 minutes, because I think that we are technically right now already in a recession. But we'll chat about that in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Thank you very much, Simeon.
You bet.